Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. It's Friday. It's feeling like a Friday here in the building. Got a bunch of people in the studio, which is the old Friday feel. It's nice to have everybody hanging out today. And we got a great show for you. A very, very good show. Second hour, Joe Heschmeyer will be here. And you know that's always good when Joe's around. And first hour.
Yeah, what about the first hour?
It's Rose Sweet is back. Check her out at rosesweet.com. All she does, she's a certified life coach. She does all kinds of work on divorce and annulments and remarriage, and a great guest here. And welcome back, Rose.
It's good to be here. It's a great way to start the new year.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to see you for the new year.
Yeah,
very
thank you.
good.
Same to you.
And hope you'll get no snow going over the mountains home to Palm Springs tonight to the valley.
Sometimes there's snow in Julian,
Yeah.
but hopefully I'll see what happens.
It's cold everywhere.
It's freezing.
Cold. All right, so Rose, I'm going to give you a little phrase that we hear all the time. And then because it's in your, it's like we hear this phrase all the time now, but I don't think anybody knows exactly what it means. So I want to talk about it with you, and then people can call 888-318-7884. Irregular unions. What are we talking about with irregular unions?
Well, when I hear the word irregular, I do think of back in the 90s when those legs pantyhose went on sale. You could get a big discount with slightly irregular pantyhose. And I remember I got a pair and there was only one leg.
That's slightly irregular.
No, you know what? And the word irregular was misleading because it was not irregular. It was wrong. It was not. They were not pantyhose.
No,
they were not pantyhose.
I don't know if you can say that on the air.
Well, it's too late now. But no, you know what? It was something really, really, really wrong. And so that's what we're going to talk about today: is what is an irregular union in our Catholic language?
Yeah. Okay. Because I don't think. Clearly, the sexual revolution. All right, 1950s, 60s, it hit its stride, connected to all kinds of things like the rise of mass media and the invention of the contraceptive pill and all that. But so we do end up that we're in a different place than we were for the, say, 500 years before that. So it does seem to me that part of what the church wants to do is not make everybody an outcast, but do you know what I mean? Not just constantly be standing in judgment over people.
So in other words, we don't want to use the word sinful, 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 even though it is sinful, because by its very nature, that closes the door to a lot of people's hearts and minds. Yeah, and we want to be aware of that without watering down the truth.
Okay. All right. So we have, what's a regular union then? Maybe we should start there.
Okay.
Regular union.
That's, okay, a regular union, and we're referring to people who are having sex in that union, in that relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be within the confines of a valid marriage bond.
Okay.
So one man, one woman, meeting all the standards that they both are of age and free will. They're freely coming there. They don't have any fear, force, or hidden agendas. They understand reasonably what marriage is going to bring, although, we never know exactly.
No, right.
And that they're open to the gift of children. They will remain faithful to each other in every way. They're exclusive in their sexual relationship and their emotional life as well. And it's till death.
I just think so many of the, well, I shouldn't say just, I was going to say young people, but just so many people alive on the earth today in this post-sexual revolution era just kind of roll their eyes at that. Like, that's it? That's where sex belongs?
Well, I know, because this is what's happened by watering everything down for 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
And I'm old enough to have been there when this started happening, and it really upsets me because it made it real easy for me to go down that dark path myself. Because of the loosey-goosey language in the church and not wanting to offend everybody. What I just described, Cy, is what every human heart really wants. If you'll be honest, set those people down who are rolling their eyes and say, okay, just take a deep breath and relax. Would you love to be in a relationship where the person is always faithful to you? Always? In every way? Till death?
Yeah.
Don't you want that? Well, yeah, but it's not possible in today's world. Yes, it is.
It is possible in
and
today's
that's what
world.
we the church are here to say. It is possible.
Yep. All right. By the way, you want to get in on this conversation? We're talking about irregular unions today. 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. All right. So irregular is, it does mean a sinful relationship, but we're avoiding that kind of just hitting people in the head with the word sinful all the time.
Well, and remember, we know as Catholics, sinful means, in a certain sense, it missed the mark of what is good and true and beautiful and what we're made for. So irregular means one of those important elements is missing in the relationship. It's not marriage. It does not rise to the level of a free, full, faithful, fruitful, beautiful marital union.
But you said the word irregular itself, though, might be too mild. You think we might have... in using the word irregular union so much, in a certain sense, the church is in your view, and I'm not saying I don't share this view, I'm just trying to get your view,
okay.
Maybe going a little too easy on what these relationships are.
Yes. And I was thinking myself, what would be a proper word? And I started to think, illegal, no, it's not illegal. Illicit, no, it's not illicit. And the word I came up with is improper. The relationship is not properly ordered to the greatest good of the human persons in that relationship. It's improper. And anything that is improper is offensive and painful and needs to be corrected so that it can become proper. So that's what I'm going to start using the word when we're talking about these irregular unions. I'm going to say it's an improper union. Let's get it proper. That's what we're here in the church for. Let us help you get it proper.
Right. Okay. All right. So give us some examples of, that's the other thing about irregular unions. It's covering an awful lot of territory.
Okay. Well, so it's people who are having sex outside marriage, who are living together or not living together. People who are baptized Catholics who remarried after a divorce outside the church, or even with no prior marriage, married outside the church. So
okay.
It's anything that doesn't rise to that level of what we called proper marriage bond.
Yeah. Okay. So in your view, and I do want to remind people again, you can call, you can ask your questions at 888-318-7884. We're talking about irregular unions now, and we just hear this word so much today from the Catholic Church. We gave a little explanation of why that might be the case, but your questions are welcome, especially perhaps you've got questions on how to regularize these relationships or help others to move towards the insight that maybe their relationship should be regularized. That is, by regularized, I mean made permanent, made fully faithful, and made fruitful, all of those things that are part of a regular union. 888-318-7884. But you always come prepared, Rose, so you have an acronym for us, and the acronym you have today has 6 letters to it, and it spells
Say it correctly. Come on. For crying out the
All right,
window.
it's 6 A words.
Assess, address,
Okay.
affirm, advise, ask, and accept.
Okay, so that's not an acronym. That's just
alliteration.
What's alliteration?
Alliteration.
Yes, you have an alliterated list.
Okay.
Do you want to start with the assess?
Okay, so this is when you see somebody maybe close to you who's in an irregular situation. What do you do? What do you do as a person who cares about them and loves them? Well, first of all, I think you have to assess, are you really being called to step in and take action or say something to these people? Like, what if it's your best girlfriend's nephew who came with his girlfriend over the holidays and they were sleeping together in that person's guest room? Is it your place to go tell them that they need to regularize their union? I would say no, but it would be wonderful if you could go have lunch with your friend and say, I'd like to talk about this. And maybe help equip your friend with some tips on how to address that. Because
Okay.
I know at the holidays, and this happened to me, Cy, well, I have people in my family who are living in sin. You can't say that because they'll get all huffy and never speak to you for 10 years. And sometimes that might be okay. No, I can't believe I just said
Come
that.
on now,
No. But we have to know how to address it. So if you've assessed that, yes, I have to move in and say something, then number 2, I'd address it face to face. Because in a text or an email, there's so much that's misread, and they can't see how much you love them and care about them, and they can't see your face. So if you're going to sit your adult children down or your friend down or whoever it is and say, I really want to talk to you, then do it face to face.
Okay.
Number 3, always start with the good. Affirm the good. I see that you're living with your girlfriend. She's beautiful, she's smart, and you guys go together. I see why you love her, and she loves you. But you're in an improper relationship. So now you move from affirm to advise, and I can't support that. I can't support that. So I'm now going to ask you, and this is a shortened version of this discussion, I'm going to ask you, here's my next A, if you disagree with me, allow me to disagree with you. And don't, walk off in a huff and don't talk to me for 10 years.
Okay.
So I'm listening to you, you listen to me. It doesn't have to be the end of our relationship. I love you very much, but I cannot support it. And then accept the fact they may reject you for a long time.
Okay.
Accept the fact that the person you love, who you are calling to the carpet, will not like it, will be offended, and may cut you out of their life. Don't give up. It's not the end. Time and grace and God can do wonderful things. So just be prepared, though, and don't be so codependent and overly attached to their affection that you never say, I can't support this.
All right. So let me go through them again then. Assess what your role is here.
Right.
Address them face to face.
Yep.
Affirm
the good.
There's good in this relationship. You should affirm it.
Yep.
Advise them
Yep.
on
what love is.
Yeah. Okay. Ask them to remain open and understand what you have to say, and then accept what happens.
Right.
And that all together spells That's a good acronym. All right, we'll take a quick break. I know you got questions for Rose. We're talking about irregular unions. That's the vogue term, and even if there might be some gentle disagreement with whether that term is strong enough, I think both you and I agree, Rose. The world is in such a state. So for some people, this is new information. They didn't know that they were. Right. That's really true today. Some people don't even know that this is what they're supposed to do. So I think that there's something laudable in the church trying to approach these things gently without bashing people constantly over the head. But there's also the truth to be told.
And that's a delicate tension that we want to help people find.
888-318-7884 is the number. If you're a Catholic person and you'd like to talk about this, you're welcome. If you're not a Catholic person, if you agree, if you disagree, whatever, we just like having the conversation, and we'd love it if you'd participate. 888-318-7884.
Catch Catholic Answers live anytime at Catholic.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects home buyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
The most original Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
On Mother Angelica Answering the Call, Father Joseph and Doug Keck mine decades of phone calls answered by Mother Angelica. Mother dishes out teaching, advice, laughter, and plenty of prayers as she takes calls from her family.
Mother Angelica Answering the Call, Sunday afternoon, 2 Eastern, on EWTN Radio.
Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. Rose Sweet is here. We're talking about irregular unions. Your calls are welcome. 318-7884. The church's teaching hasn't changed, but she has certainly found new ways to express herself on this matter over the last 50, 60, 70 years, as you were saying, Rose. One of the ways is to talk about irregular unions rather than to just talk about sin and fornication, and because some of those words that
adultery, right?
Yeah. It's not though that the church's teaching has changed. It is not, and so we got to help people come back to it. How can we do that? That's kind of what we're talking about today. Walt's in Pennsylvania, listening on EWTN. Walt, glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
So I listened to Layla Miller. I think it's Layla Miller. Sorry. She wrote a book called Primal Loss about divorce and how it devastates children, and how they, for last 50 years, children have been gaslighted that, things will be okay, everything's fine now. And then you have all these people going to psychologists, etc., and nobody knows why they're so upset. Why is it that when somebody is going to the priest who's having a difficult marriage, they often just say, well, we could if somebody leaves or whatever, they just say, well, you can get an annulment. You could try and get an annulment. Why don't they just, your kids need both of you. You need to work this out. I think that's something that's really not taught anymore. And it's very frustrating. I have nieces and nephews that have the wounds of divorce and remarriage nonsense. Go to a family gathering, both parents are there with their other spouses. It's absurd.
Right, and you're right. We try to regularize and normalize that, and we're just putting frosting over a wound. I hear exactly what you're saying. But let's be careful, though. Not every priest and not every Catholic counselor sends people off to the annulment tribunal. Not everybody does that. A lot of people say, let's get you counseling, let's get you help. How can we come alongside you? We don't hear about that a lot because it's a private matter. Mm-hmm. We usually hear about the bad stuff. Oh, he told me to go get an annulment right away. And so I agree with you. It is horrible for the kids. It's horrible for everybody. But I know a lot of good priests, a lot of good people in the church who are helping people to mend their marriages rather than push them toward divorce. So let's keep praying for that. That's a good point that you brought up.
Thanks, Walt. I would like to just give my own testimony on that. Missy and I got help from our parish in this regard, and it was actually quite helpful. But when would that come up? I mean, if we had gotten a divorce or sought an annulment, you would have known about it. But nobody stands up in church and goes, here's the following couples that were helped by the parish this week.
Right. Because it is there's shame and there's embarrassment there with it, and there's pain, and we don't want to expose people. We don't want to expose that to everybody.
Let's go to Jessica in Ohio. Thanks, Walt, for the call. Jessica in Ohio, listening on iHeartRadio. Appreciate your call, Jessica. Hang on, I got a little phone problem here. Will you push 5 for me? Jessica, go ahead with your question for Rose.
Hi. Well, I recently returned home, and thank you for this show. It's been a wonderful wealth of information.
Yay.
Oh, wonderful.
So I know that I'm in an irregular union right now, and I'm working on getting a LACA form for myself.
Good.
And then I know that it's still an irregular union, but I had 2 questions on that. Should I be confessing that every time I go to confession?
Confessing what?
And
Jessica?
Well, the fact that I'm remarried.
Okay, so let's take this first question, and then I want to hear your second one. If you're civilly remarried and you know that it's not a valid union right now, but you're working on it, great, good, excellent, wonderful. That's God's grace in you. Go to your husband and say, until we have a valid marriage bond, we're going to live as brother and sister. So you do whatever it takes to sleep in a separate bed or bedroom or whatever it takes. Many good couples do this, and when they understand the great good that comes from it, it's no huge problem. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. So if you do that, you don't have to confess anything. If you find it difficult and you know that you should separate sexually until the annulment comes through, and you fall anyway. It's like it is. You have to go back to confession. Say, Lord, strengthen me again. I need more grace. I want to do it right. So yes, you do have to go every time. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, it does, and it relieves my heart because I already knew that in my heart and made that decision.
Good girl.
So I've already
Good girl.
taken that step. Good
girl.
So my next question then is they always say to examine your state of grace and go to confession and then receive the Eucharist. But I know in my heart right now that even though I don't feel like I'm in a mortal state of grace, maybe I am and I just don't realize it. But I know in my heart right now that I still can't receive Eucharist. I was just wondering, do I have to wait all the way until our marriage is convalidated, or is there another avenue for me to be able to receive?
Okay, first of all, there's probably a lot of details to your relationship that we don't know and you don't want to really be sharing on the air, but I would go get a good, wise, and holy priest or a good, spiritual director to help you think these things out and talk them out. But you need to go to Mass every Sunday, right? God asks you, God tells you, I want
absolutely.
you here. Okay. You do not have to receive,
Absolutely.
you don't have to receive Holy Communion. You make a spiritual act of communion until, yes, your marriage is convalidated. Now, I'm going to ask you a special thing. Today is 2024. If this goes through, then there's no problem. But the time probably required is maybe a year or two. I don't even know. It could be shorter than that if it's lack of form, much shorter. In the big picture of your marriage, it's a short amount of time. So try to keep that perspective. Does that make sense?
It does. There
Okay.
is some other struggles in persuading him to get it convalidated, but yeah.
Okay, and that's very common. So what I'm going to do so we don't tie up the lines all day long is please reach out to me at rose@rosesweet.com and let me help you help him. I'd love to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Keep taking the high path, Jessica.
Jessica, thank you. What an inspiring call. It was wonderful to get a chance to talk with you. I hope we'll talk again, but do reach out to Rose at rosesweet.com. Let's try to get another question in before we have to go to the break. Let's go to Jerry in Cleveland, Ohio, listening on The Rock. Glad you're here, Jerry. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Just a little louder, Jerry.
Not really. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you for taking my call. Not really a question, but more of a comment. We're talking about, the terminology of irregular unions and how the word irregular might be out of place. But I would ask you to comment about whether the word union really even belongs in there, because, is it really a true union when people are living outside the will of God in that sense, or are they more, sort of isolated individuals who, maybe in close proximity to each other? But, I wonder whether even the word union is appropriate. That was really my only
Rose, what do you think?
Well, there's so many layers to that. That's a good point. It is not a true union, but it is a union of sexual union, legal union, family union, neighborhood union. I mean, when people come together, live together, and act as married, there are levels of union there. But you're right, it is not marriage, and it's not a true union. And we talk about this all the time. Words matter, and that's I think what we're trying to do. Find the proper word.
Yeah, right. But as you said, I mean, the church's teaching on marriage is so complex because marriage is a civil reality as well as a religious reality. It's also, in addition to being a religious reality for the Catholic person, it's a sacrament. And so all of those have their own claim to being a union. And
Right.
then there's the other element that even outside of marriage, sexual union is
Right.
possible. You can make a baby. I mean,
Right.
that's pretty unitive if you make
Right.
a baby.
Right.
So there's.
But it's not a good. There's good from it, but there's a part that's not good. It's not
Sure.
a good union. It's not a true union.
Right.
So it's good that we parse these things out.
Jerry, are you satisfied with that answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Well,
Jerry.
thank you very much. Hey, we got to take a quick break, but before we go, Catholic Answers is going on a cruise.
What?
Yeah, we're taking a cruise June 29th through July 6th.
Where?
Montreal, Quebec, Boston, Massachusetts. We'll end in Boston.
I've
Yeah.
been on that one before. It's beautiful. Do we
Well-
get a discount?
Oh, well, let me think about that, and we'll talk
Okay.
about it when we come back.
Okay.
Rose
okay.
Sweet is our guest. There are lines open. I will get to the callers who are on. Don't worry. I'm going to get to you when we come back. We're talking about irregular unions. If you have questions, whether for yourself or for someone else or just in general, as Jerry's question was, 888-318-7884.
Why We're Catholic is the one book you can hand to anyone to invite them into or back to the Catholic faith. With more than 400,000 copies sold, Trent Horn's book has had a #1 ranking on Amazon.com for 5 years running. Now available in softcover, bulk cases, ebook, and on Audible. Find out what the excitement is all about. Order your copies of Why We're Catholic at shop.catholic.com or visit whywearecatholic.com.
When the resurrected Jesus appeared to disciples on the road to Emmaus, they didn't recognize him until the breaking of the bread. The same is true today. In the Holy Eucharist, we really meet Jesus. In The Eucharist is Really Jesus, author Joe Heschmeyer explains how knowing Jesus in the Eucharist is the key to understanding all of Christian faith. Order your copy of The Eucharist is Really Jesus today at shop.catholic.com or get it at a good Catholic bookstore.
If you're not a Bible scholar, the full message of how the Sunday Mass readings fit together can be tough to comprehend. Apologist Carlo Broussard is here to help. Join Carlo every Friday for the Sunday Catholic Word podcast. In each episode, he unpacks the scripture readings for that Sunday and brings them all together so you can better understand and defend the faith. Visit SundayCatholicWord.com to subscribe. That's SundayCatholicWord.com.
Are you scared to talk about abortion? Don't worry, almost everyone is. You can overcome this fear as Trent Horn shows in the newly revised and expanded second edition of Persuasive Pro-Life. With a little knowledge and a few proven techniques, you can become a bold and effective apologist for life. Visit shop.catholic.com to order your copy of Persuasive Pro-Life and never again be afraid to speak up. Also available at good Catholic bookstores.
On the next More to Life, team up.
Feel like your family is off its game? We'll help you and yours be a better team.
That's on the next More to Life. Now back to Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Our guest is Rose Sweet. We hear a lot these days about irregular union, so we're just talking about what does the church mean when it uses the phrase irregular union, and then also what can be done about irregular unions. It's not just a blanket, some kind of rejection at all. The church would love to help people regularize these unions into what we call, what's the word for the regular union? Oh, marriage. That's it. I thought of it myself. 888-318-7884 if you'd like to participate. If you'd like to ask Rose a question, whatever, you're welcome here. 888-318-7884. Before we went to the break, I was telling you about the cruise we're going on.
And I asked about, is there such thing as a discount?
There was a discount up to January 6th.
But can't you extend it?
The thing is, yes, I can, Rose. Yes, I can.
Wow! Nice.
Yes, we'll call it the. I should have. I should call it the Rose. We did like if you use the promo code Rose Sweet.
Okay,
but
no.
I can't do that. I don't have that power.
I don't need to take the credit.
I don't.
No.
All right, so I'll tell you what. Use the promo code Pope Peter, the one that we had before, and anybody that signs up this month. We'll give them the discount.
It's a beautiful.
And I act like that's all spontaneous, but actually. Jen came in and told me, you were wrong about that thing. It didn't end on January 6th. I don't know why I got it in. She goes, it's for the whole month of January. I was like,
good.
I'm sorry, Jen.
Oh, good.
But I end up saying I'm sorry to people who know things around here so often.
I wonder why that is.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. My bad. She's like, where did you get January 6th? I swear, in a meeting or something, somebody told me, say it's until January 6th.
Okay. It's okay.
I'm just so
It's
upset,
okay,
Rose.
It's okay.
All right, if you want to come on the cruise with us, go to CatholicAnswersCruise.com. Use the promo code Pope Peter this month and get a discount on your ticket. CatholicAnswersCruise.com. Find out all about it there. Rose has been on this cruise before.
Well,
I've been on it too, but I didn't go on the one you went on. Missy and I went on it 6 years ago, I think.
Well, here's what I love. First of all, it's relaxing. It's beautiful. The food is good. It's a good getaway. And then every day there's a Catholic event.
Yeah.
You're getting off the ship on the not days on sea, and you're going to beautiful cathedrals and learning wonderful history, and you're hearing wonderful talks from the apologists. It's the best way to vacation.
You're so much better at this than I am.
Well,
because sell it, Rose. Sell it.
No, and I get nothing out of it.
Here, I'll just tell you what to say.
Hello, did you hear that part?
I know.
I get nothing out of this.
Like everything you do here.
Yeah,
you get
I know,
nothing out of it.
exactly.
Say this, CatholicAnswersCruise.com.
CatholicAnswersCruise.com.
No, don't say it like I'm saying it. Just you say it.
Oh, CatholicAnswersCruise.com. I'll say it again. Go to CatholicAnswersCruise.com.
Use promo code Pope Peter.
Use promo code Pope Peter.
All right, back to the phones we go. Billy is right here in California listening on Catholic.com. Billy, we're awful glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Just getting a lot of backlash from my Protestant brothers and sisters regarding the last decision on same-sex marriages. I'm a recent convert. I, studied my way into the church by God's grace, of course.
Praise God.
But, and thank God for that. So I brought my marriage in my marriage was convalidated this year and everything, and so we're good to go. We just were, really blessed. So I have a couple friends, one in particular that just continues to troll YouTube. He's the YouTube theologian, right? And we all got one of those guys, right? And they all just send a bunch of stuff. And so anyways, I'm trying to sift through all the stuff, and I'm like, let's answer some important questions here. Show me one document that shows the definition of marriage has changed. It hasn't. Show me, any proof that actual unions are being blessed, not necessarily couples. And everything else. And what I'm getting back is, okay, well, we can't show you that, but we can show you 1,500 bishops, essentially, that are coming out and speaking out against the Pope. And two things that I have, come to love in my Catholic faith now are, one is our Blessed Mother, and two is our Pope. Now, I may not necessarily agree with everything, essentially, that he says, but in practicum, I'm going to follow as the skeletal body of Christ, in every way that I can, because Christ obviously established him as the vicar of Christ. So by going against him, essentially, unless he tells me to deny Christ, which of course he's not telling anybody to do that.
No, really. That's not possible.
And exactly, yeah. So he is wanting people to come to the church, and by blessing them to allow them to come to the knowledge of Christ, so that, yes, number one, that they repent and that they, find Christ, that they get baptized, that they get into a blessed union, a blessed marriage for Christ, a man and a woman. So I guess my question is, and I'm sorry to say all that, I'm just kind of painting the picture here, is because there's many of us who have Protestant brothers and sisters that are bringing all these things against us, for, like those bishops and everything else. What is your answer to these people that are saying, well, yeah, but you have 1,500 bishops that are, against, and everything else? What is it exactly that they are against, considering I can't find anything? Throw me a bone here. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just curious, did you read because if they're talking about 1,500 bishops, they're probably talking about the bishops of Africa. That's the most
right, and then Germany and all right.
Did you read what because the African Bishops Conference put out or the head of the African Bishops Conference put out a letter? I'm just curious if you read it.
I have not read it, no, but I've heard about it and I need to.
Well, because it might help you. I'll just say three things about it, and then Rose can give you her answer. But first, they say right in the letter that the Pope approved of their letter, so they're not in conflict with the Pope. The Pope approved of their letter. in their letter they say they talk about the cultural context of Africa and that they can't do this at this time, and then they close with a kind of reference to Pope Francis's own teaching that you can't you can't impose something on a culture that's either not ready for it or that is not in a position to do that. And so all of it seemed it said no to a certain act, but it was not divisive. It wasn't expressed in a divisive way. And people say, well, that's window dressing or whatnot. No, it's not. Like when people say, we got the Pope's permission, the Pope said okay to this, and this is what we're going to do, that's not just window dressing. That's how Catholic faith works. That's union with the Pope. So
right.
I might say to people, well, read what the bishop said, because they didn't say we're in rebellion against the Pope or something. They said, here's what we're going to do. We got the Pope to approve it. The Pope approved it. Rose, go ahead.
Well, I have exhaustion from this topic.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people do, Catholics and Protestants alike. And I'm going to I like everything you said. I'm going to take another spin on this. In my work with coaching people in all kinds of relationships, I notice a thread that has just taken us all down. And it's the union of criticism and defense. Whenever we hear a criticism, we automatically, knee-jerk, go into defense. Mm-hmm. Okay? And a lot of times the person who has criticized us or maybe talked about the 1,500 bishops isn't really interested in hearing what we have to say at all. And we're spending a lot of time and energy defending ourselves and to a shut door. And so what I've learned in relationships, I'm going to apply to this, is to don't defend and lean in and say, lean into that person and say, does that bother you that 1,500 bishops did this? Or does that bother you? Tell me why that bothers you. I would like to know more about what you think and what you feel. See how wise that is?
You are.
So you're not exhausting yourself in competing but you are moving into them and saying, I see you, I hear you, and I want to know more and understand you. And then you're going to find something that you agree on and go, you know what? I agree. You and I are in agreement on that. So, and I don't have time because I got a dinner date or a golf date or whatever, but I'm going to tell you something. Go to Catholic.com. They have a wonderful article there on this. And if you do want to know about those bishops or know about Africa or whatever the topic is, this is what I love about Catholic Answers. I don't have to do the work. You guys have done so much work for all of us, and it's true, and it's faithful, and it's clear. And so lean into the other person, ask them the questions, find what you can agree on, and then send them to Catholic Answers.
Billy, what do you think?
Awesome. Sounds great. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for the call, and welcome home, brother.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice, Billy.
Absolutely. Yes. No, thank you. Praise God. Thank you, guys.
That will actually bring us right to the break, so we'll take a break. Your calls are welcome, 888-318-7884.
This is Archbishop Paul Coakley, the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, and you're listening to Catholic Answers Live.
Who was the first Catholic in your family? Were they evangelized by a friend, a coworker, a stranger? Did you ever think that you could be that person that God uses to save a soul? And that soul could save their family, their grandchildren, and generations to come. At St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, we train, equip, and mobilize Catholic disciples to do the urgent work of evangelization. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization, streetevangelization.com.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
Human beings are God's greatest masterpiece. Every person is made in the image and likeness of God. But every saint, that is, every person who accepts God's invitation, his upward call to make them holy. And so every story presents us with a unique masterpiece that God is writing.
The Journey Home, Monday night, 8 Eastern, on EWTN Radio and television.
Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. Hey, second hour, Joe Heschmeyer will be here, but I'm sure it'll be a good show. So Join us second hour. We'll do open forum with Joe Heschmeyer. This hour, Rose Sweet is here. And Rose does, she already gave out the website, and I gave it out, but I'll give it out again, rosesweet.com. And Rose has, for years and years, been helping people with divorce, remarriage, annulments, all of that, including you made a video series. Didn't you do a video thing for EWTN? Or?
Yes, I've done a lot of that stuff. But basically, thank you for bringing it up. I love to help people in irregular relationships and irregular relationship problems. We can get it right, and I want to help people get it right.
So if you have questions about our topic today, which is this phrase, irregular unions, that the church now uses, you are welcome to call 888-318-7884. We will go now to Tom in Omaha, Nebraska. And like almost everybody listening in Nebraska, he's listening on Spirit Catholic Radio. Glad you're here, Tom. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Okay, here's my question. If a lesbian marries a man and doesn't tell him that she's a lesbian, is that grounds for invalidation of the marriage?
Maybe and maybe not. This is a complex issue. It depends on the woman. If she has a same-sex attraction that she struggles with and carries a lot of shame and is trying to live a good married life, that may not prevent her from being able to enter into marriage. She has a struggle, but it may not be an impediment. It depends on how long it's been, how deep it is, how great the deception was. But even then, and here's the power of God's grace, even in this marriage where it all comes out that she lied and she didn't tell him and he's shocked and he's angry, if they really wanted to, with God's grace, they could work through that and still come out stronger in the end. That's why it's so dangerous to just say, yes, these are grounds, yes, you should get a divorce, or no, this or that. Every case is different and unique because we're unique. Does that answer what you had in mind?
Well, yes and no. If the man wants to, he's not happy with her. She's not responding in a feminine way and so on. Isn't it likely he could get an annulment?
I don't know, because that by itself, a woman who is not responsive sexually in a marriage is not grounds for marriage, but it may indicate some other grounds or lead to some other grounds. It's certainly a problem and a struggle. Certainly is difficult, but it doesn't mean it's grounds for annulment. He needs to go deeper into this, learn about it, get a good spiritual director or counselor, and work to see if they can come up with some kind of loving relationship that works for them.
Tom, thank you very much for the call. Look at that, all lines filled up all of a sudden. Let's go to Steve in northern Kentucky, listening on Sacred Heart Radio. Steve, thank you for your call. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Rose, I heard you say something just in one of the last prior calls, and I think it was in reference to the irregular blessings of unions that the document that the Pope put out. And I know you said you're getting tired of it, and I understand that. But I think the reason why people, and people can't get tired of it, of answering that question, because the priests in the Diocese of the United States, from my experience, are not addressing this head-on on the pulpit. They are not explaining that this is a wrong decision. It is not. Most theologians are saying this is not correct. And I want to know why parish priests are not saying this here is the moral clarity, as opposed to playing politics and saying, well, I'm tired of talking about this. The reason why we're talking about it is because people are not providing clear, orthodox Catholic teaching. And Rose, we have to be a little more firm. And I think not so much so nice and walking on eggshells. Here is what is Catholic teaching. So does that make sense?
Well, it doesn't entirely make sense to me, Steve, and I'll say why. Is it the role of a parish priest to correct the Pope?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what happens if you border on heresy, I would say you do it within charitable ways, of course. the Pope is only 100% right in infallibility statements. On prudential statements, which this was above of what I call prudential statement, yes. Now, you have to do it tactful because you'll be taken out like Strickland or Burke or all the other ones that have been taken out. Yes, absolutely they do. Now, maybe that's not done on the pulpit. Maybe that's done in some kind of a session after hours with the laity. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, Rose?
Well, Steve, you're right. We don't need to be more firm or harsh, and we don't need to be more soft. It is, and I said this earlier, it's a delicate tension to be both loving and pastoral, but also clear and firm on the truth. And I don't even need to mention the name of this pope, the last pope, the future pope. We have the teachings of Jesus Christ through his church that are thousands of years old, and we can teach that. First, we live it. And we teach it loud and clear. And if your priest or priests are not teaching this clearly from the pulpit, then you get on your knees with me and so many others, and you pray for our priests. They are under a lot of attack. I'm not excusing anything, but they need our prayers because, yes, they do need to be clear, good leaders of the people. So pray for them. Pray for them.
The number is 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Our guest is Rose Sweet. We're talking about irregular unions. The church uses that phrase now, but exactly what is it talking about? When it talks about irregular unions, Rose has been describing that for us, and part of the logic clearly is that the world is not living by the same sexual ethic that it lived by, say, 100 years ago, and so the church has to adapt her language to try to be heard clearly. What she has not done is changed her fundamental teachings on human sexuality. So how do we deal with irregular unions? And how do we move forward? And let's go to Patty. I don't have a location for you, Patty, but we're awful glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Thank you. I'm in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Oh, I love Bismarck, North Dakota.
Rose, would you please give the 6 A's again? I pulled over to try to take notes. I'm very thankful for your lecture, and I'd like to get them all down.
Okay, very quickly, assess if you're really being called to get in the middle of this situation with the person with the irregular relationship. Number 2, address it face-to-face with them, not just email or text if you can. Number 3, always affirm the good in them, the good in the other person, and your love for them. Number 4, advise them that love is not acceptance of sin. This is what you believe, and you have to stand strong. Ask them to be as open and receptive and understanding of your position as you are of theirs, and then accept that they may reject you for a long time, and be at peace with that and trust God to help reconciliation come in the future.
Thank you. It's a very excellent lecture.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rose is pretty good, Patty. I was in Bismarck in December. That's why I said I love Bismarck, especially in the winter.
I wish I could have been there, but I'm commuting between North Dakota and Minnesota. So
holy smokes!
Wow!
All the way over to Bismarck too. All right. Well, Patty, thanks for the call. What radio station do you listen on when you're? Because I assume you do it while you're making that commute.
Let me see. North Dakota and Minnesota. So. I'm really sorry, I can't see the number.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's fine. Pay attention to the road. It's snowing, Patty. We don't need a fatality. We'll move on. Thanks, Patty. I didn't mean to make you do that.
Wait, that's material cooperation in somebody's death.
I know.
Okay.
But Patty, pay attention to the road. Marissa is in Illinois listening on WTTT radio. Awful glad you're here. Marissa, go ahead with your question for Rose.
Hi, Marissa.
My husband and I. Hi. How are you?
Good.
My husband and I are in a loving relationship, a loving marriage. We have been for 8 years now. My non-Catholic marriage has been pardoned by the church, as is this civil union. My husband is Lutheran. He has no interest in becoming Catholic. His annulment has been suspended because the witnesses that he provided have failed to respond to our repeated pleas for information and assistance. At this point, I feel like my local parish is not that concerned with my situation and hasn't provided a lot of guidance on next steps. I'm wondering if it would be beneficial to receive the help of an attorney with this. I don't think anyone will contest his annulment. It's just, we've been living this way for years.
Marissa, honey, hang on there. You called the right number. Help is here. Thank you for doing the right thing and wanting to take the high road to get all of God's blessings and grace. This is very common at the parish. People are not trained or equipped to deal with the annulment situations and don't know what to do, so they just kind of ignore it sometimes. They don't mean to. This is what keeps me in business, sadly, is people who can't get the help that they need locally will reach out to me. I wrote a book on annulments. I've been through it myself. I will help you and your husband get this back on in any way that I can. So please email me, rose@rosesweet.com, and we will go from there. And I will take good care of both of you.
Marissa, will you be able to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I already wrote down your email address. Thank you so much.
Good girl. Hang in there. Hang in there.
But I want to follow up on what Marissa said. Do couples sometimes employ canon lawyers to help them with these?
Yes, they do. They do. But here's this: anybody can help. Anybody over the age of 18 can be your advocate.
Okay.
You can get any kind of outside help that you need. And a lot of people do call canon lawyers, but sometimes they can be very expensive.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on how complex the case is.
But I have to say, you hear horror stories. Is 8 years just extraordinary? Like, that sounds horrific
8 years
to me.
That's ridiculous. Something is really wrong there. It's ridiculous. Somebody hasn't done their job from day one. So, yeah. And that's not normal. That's not normal. That's very irregular.
Yeah, that's an irregular response.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the church doesn't owe you a particular answer, but it does, in justice, owe you an answer.
Yes.
As to whether you're...
But most people don't realize that they have rights under canon law. They're afraid to ask. They send in their paperwork and then they wait. They don't think they have any authority. They don't, some people are the opposite. They're calling the tribunal every day.
Right.
But this is what I love to do, is help people understand the church does want to help you, but you got people who have like 8 to 5 jobs that are overwhelmed like everybody else in the world is. And unless you speak up sometimes, you're not going to get the help you need. And she called in today asking for help, and she's going to get it.
Okay. Marissa, I'm glad that you are going to get that help, because it seems injustice. It does seem that at a certain point it becomes an injustice against the petitioner to let it go that long. Rose, we're talking about irregular unions. I mean, that's one kind of irregular union that can be regularized. In many of these situations, there's almost sometimes a shocking experience of the church's teaching on sex and sexuality does require something from me, and everybody has to get to there at some point. It's not. When people kind of mock the church as repressed or something, that's silly, but it's not off base to say that the church does ask a great deal of people as far as sex and sexuality.
Yes, but let's simplify this.
Okay.
Let's just say, give me a $20 bill out of you owe me $20. I want $20 right now. Can you just give it to me? You're going to go, well, why? Rose is making demands on me, right?
Yeah.
What if I said instead, here is a box full of your favorite donuts, or something.
I got $40.
The minute you see something you want, you're willing to pay the price.
I gotcha.
We have to give the vision of a beautiful marriage to people and say, this is what you want, this is what you were made for, this is what God wants for you, we want to help you get it. And they'll go, okay, then I'll live up to these demands.
Man, I get why we have Rose Sweet on so much. It's an excellent decision, dear.
Donuts, baby.
Well, when you use donuts as an example,
see?
all of a sudden, Everything clicks
I'm
for me.
telling you.
Everything. Rose, thank you very much.
Thank you.
RoseSweet.com is where you can go and find out more about what Rose does. Coming up next, Joe Heschmeyer, and it'll be open forum. So if you're on the line, you can wait and just ask Joe your question. Or if you haven't called yet, pick up the phone and dial 888-318-7884. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm CAlive, your host. And as promised, Joe Heschmeyer here for an hour of open forum. A little bit of bonus Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday morning open forum. You're welcome to call 888-318-7884. 888-318-7884 is the number. And anybody can call, whether you're open forum just means this: open to any question about the Catholic faith, open to any person, whether they're Catholic or not. And that might be you. 888-318-7884. Joe Heschmeyer, of course, apologist here at Catholic Answers, a longtime apologist at Shameless Popery, now a podcaster at Shameless Popery, and author of a whole bunch of books, including his most recent one, The Eucharist is Really Jesus. Hello, Joe Heschmeyer.
Good to be here, Si. I like that you said it's open to anyone, Catholic or not, and that could be you. You might fall in the category of X or not X.
No, I said anyone who has a question, whether Catholic or not, and that could be.
Go.
I think that's what I said. It's
You
more.
might be right. But I just remember thinking, like, yeah, it seems like a pretty wide net.
Do you notice the type of shirt that I'm wearing? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got a flannel one.
I have a flannel shirt. And
I've got 2 jackets and a polo because it's 17 degrees here.
Is it 17 degrees?
I think
in Kansas
it was
City?
17 during the day. It's probably colder now.
Holy
it's 11.
smokes.
It's 11 now. Yeah, but it feels like -5. So I am unabashedly wearing lots of layers of clothing inside because our heater cannot keep up with that.
Well, first of all, are the babies safe?
And we've got a space heater upstairs.
Okay.
So I'll die alone down here in the basement.
Well, that's kind of okay with me as long as the babies are safe. Like,
Yes.
it's not my preferred thing. I don't want you to think that. It's just, all right. It's cold everywhere. It's, we have not had a warm day in a while here.
What is it when you say that?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little more, like, numerically what you mean?
I don't think we've gotten out of the 60s for
that sounds
for 3 or
horrible.
4 weeks. I think.
Yeah, when I said 11, I wasn't talking about Celsius.
Oh, that's like in American numbers.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, sorry to hear about it, Joe. Well, the reason I wanted to talk to you about my flannel shirt, though, is that I came back from the Christmas break and there were 2 flannel shirts in my office. This one, see this beautiful one I'm wearing, and then this one of a similar pattern, which I wore yesterday.
Yes.
And then I found out today who gave them to me. It's our friend Ann.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And that means that one of them is for you. So I've worn them both now, but you still.
I like that you're like demonstrating on the air you're wearing clothing intended for me.
Well, I didn't know. They were sitting on the chair in my office. So I'm going to wash one. Just tell me, would you prefer what color is this, Darren? I'm not good with colors. Is that, I don't know, whatever this color is or the blue one? What would you prefer?
Yeah, actually the one you have on now is quite striking. I like it.
Well, thank you. It might not be when you wear it. It might just be that when I wear
Might
it.
be striking in a different way.
All right, I'll wash it and send it to you. And thank you.
I'm coming out in less than a month, or almost a month exactly. So you can.
All right. Well, it's going to look like it's been worn for a month when you get here, but it'll still be in pretty good shape. All right. You want to do some questions?
Please, anything.
Please, anything. Aaron in Illinois, listening on Catholic.com. Thank you for the call, Aaron. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hey, I am sleep deprived and having a hard time remembering what the answer to the Euthyphro objection is, and I have a slightly stronger form than the Euthyphro objection.
Okay. Well, do you want help with the sleep, first of all?
Huh?
Do you need help with sleeping? I mean, the youth.
Throw the man off. He's sleep deprived.
That would be nice, but Mary helps with that. I pray my rosary and I fall asleep, and she tucks me in, and then I wake up again and I pray another rosary and fall asleep. And it's just very inconsistent.
Oh, I thought it might be a children thing because that's why Joe's answer is going to be terrible. But I thought your question might.
I've just been sick for 12 years, and so things flare up.
Oh, I'm sorry,
so
Aaron.
I can't sleep.
I'm really sorry. We'll remember that in our prayers, Aaron. I'm sorry to hear that. That's really hard. 11 years. That's very hard.
Well, I remember you guys in my prayers. I appreciate listening to your program when I can't
Thank
sleep.
you. Yeah.
Well, you probably remember us more than we do since you're constantly waking up and praying the rosary. That's the kind of guy I want remembering me in his prayers. Joe, Euthyphro.
Well, was that your objection? You sounded like you said you had a stronger version of it.
Guys, so I pray for you guys.
Thank you, Aaron.
Anyways, so the moral argument, if God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist. objective moral values do exist, therefore God exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Euthyphro objection that is slightly tweaked is, you know, what is God adding here? He either has some reason for commanding what he does or he doesn't. And if he adds some reason, then the reason itself seems to be what's undergirding it, not God himself. It seems like you could disconnect it from God, and I'm having a hard time for some reason. I'm just tired, and I'm having a hard time interlocking
that's a really good
God
question.
is goodness and why that doesn't apply. So if you could refresh my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good objection, and I think a good way to think about it is when we talk about what we mean by good, we mean that it's fulfilling the nature of the thing. And this is the way people use good all the time, whether they realize it or not. If you say someone's a good pitcher, you mean that he pitches the way a pitcher ought to pitch. And you can use this even if you don't mean morally good, even if you mean someone's like a good thief, not in the sense of, the good thief on the cross, but good at stealing. You just mean like the nature of what it is to be a thief, somebody excels at that. And so when we use terms like good and evil actions or good and evil people, we mean that man has a nature and a purpose and a design just as much as a thief has a nature, purpose, design, or a pitcher or any kind of job. So in other words, if life is directed and ordered towards an end, then we can evaluate whether you're getting closer or further from the goal that God has created for you. In this case, eternal flourishing. But if there is no God and if there is no purpose, then it's meaningless to say that you've gotten closer or further from that goal because that goal doesn't exist. In the same way that you can say you're driving closer to your destination if there's a destination, but if you're just traveling around, it doesn't make any sense to speak of being further or closer to any kind of goal. And so that's an important reason why morality points to God, is that we can say we like this behavior, we don't like that behavior. But if we're going to say man has a purpose and a destiny and an end, and that he can either get further from that or closer to it, that implies that he's been created and given a purpose.
I'll just have to think on it, I guess. I could kind of see that, but at the same time, my brain kind of goes, okay, then because he made the world this way, but he could have made it a different way, so the way he created it is kind of arbitrary.
I see the objection here. So there are some things that are good or bad according to our nature. And you can imagine us having a different nature. So it's bad to feed someone gasoline because people don't flourish off gasoline. But if we were, cars, then gasoline might be great. And so there are certain things that are only good or bad because of their relation to our nature. And our nature is the choice of God willing them to be that way. But there are other things where it doesn't seem that he could have willed the opposite. It doesn't seem he could have made a world in which cruelty was somehow good or lying and deception were good. Because if you understand the nature of those actions, then those go against basic principles of justice. And it's in God's nature to be just. And so he can't create something contrary to his own nature without acting against himself. So that's kind of that deeper layer to the question of the kind of hypothetical, counterfactual, what kind of worlds could God have created? And there are some areas where it does seem morality could be different. You could have weekly worship on Wednesday instead of Sunday. Nothing is overthrown by that. But on the other hand, a world in which injustice is good and justice is bad seems like a world of irrationality, and God is not irrational.
Okay, but then that's where I'm having the trouble melding the two, because then it seems like the goodness itself is unbounded from God. Like he's perfect rationality and he's perfect goodness because he holds to those rules.
No, because he
and so we look to him because he holds to it perfectly and he creates perfectly within those rules, but goodness is almost apart from him.
So when we talk about truth,
it's him, but
one of the things we mean with something being true is that it conforms to reality. And so if God is the ultimate reality, it's meaningless to imagine a world in which God is a liar or doesn't conform to reality. It just means we don't know what we mean by God or by reality or by true. if you understand what those terms mean, then the infinite God, who is the undergirding power behind all of reality, can't be certain properties, can't be irrational, can't be a liar, can't be these, can't be non-good, because metaphysically that's impossible. But this isn't God living up to some external standard. This is God's nature being the perfect fullness of being. And then the rest is just, what do we know about being?
And was that it?
No,
Joe?
no. I was just going to say, these are some deep waters. So people listening, if you're saying, what are these guys talking about? Aquinas spends a good deal of time in the Summa kind of exploring these things. And it's okay if you've never thought these things or gone this deep. It's beautiful when you realize that God really is true, good, beautiful, and so on, because it's the nature of his reality to exist in this way.
Aaron, God bless you, brother. I got to leave it there. We'll take a quick break and be right back with more Joe. The number is 888-318-7884. If you have a question about the Catholic faith, whether you are Catholic or not, 888-318-7884.
Miss a show? Make sure to catch up by downloading the podcast, available online at Catholic.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects homebuyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
Catechism in a Year with me, Father Mike Schmitz, is coming soon to Catholic Radio. Encounter God's plan of sheer goodness for us, revealed in Scripture and passed down through the tradition of the Catholic faith as we journey together toward our heavenly home.
Bible in a Year and Catechism in a Year with Father Mike Schmitz, starting Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on EWTN Radio.
Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. Joe Heschmeyer is our guest. It's open forum. Joe is a member of the Flannel Panel. The Flannel Panel will be taking a cruise in June. Do you know about this, Joe? Have you been invited on it? Because I know in the past we've
Yes.
advertised that you're going on trips that we forgot to tell you were going on. But
Yeah,
this one you know
time
about?
I know about it, yeah.
Okay. All right, good. June 29th through July 6th, you get on the boat. No, it's a ship. You get on the ship in Montreal, and then we stop in places like Quebec and Nova Scotia and a bunch of other places, and we'll see St. Anne de Beaupré, the beautiful church up there, and we'll talk all about the history of Christianity in the New World with just a whole bunch. We've lots of folks have signed up. We're going to have a great time. Lots and lots of Catholics, Mass every day, talks every day, wonderful things to see. If you'd like to know more about it, CatholicAnswersCruise.com, CatholicAnswersCruise.com. And if you decide you want to come and you sign up this month, use the promo code Pope Peter by the last day of this month, and you will get yourself a discount. Pope Peter at CatholicAnswersCruise.com. Off we go now.
Before we do that, I was just going to say, people should really look forward to the greatest ship that's going to be there, Friendship.
Oh my! They took the tissues out of here. I can't believe it. I can't even find the tissues. What am I?
I just thought.
Oh my gosh!
Needed to hear that. Well, let's go to the calls now.
That's what I don't know. I'm ever going to get over this beautiful moment. Mike in Dallas, Pennsylvania. Thanks for calling, Mike. Go ahead with your question. Did I push the wrong line? What line is Mike on? Yeah, I pushed the wrong line. Hang on, Mike. I got so emotional, I just couldn't handle it anymore. Go ahead, Mike. You got to start over. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Okay. No, thank you for taking my call.
Happy
I understand. It's that was a difficult joke to get over.
Yeah. Thank you for your understanding, Mike. I appreciate your understanding.
But in all sincerity, I just got turned on to the podcast from Joe Popery, and it's really good. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mike. It really is good, and you should see the popularity. It's growing with just a consistent upward slope. So yeah, shameless popery. Yeah,
shameless popery. I had a question about something I saw, and from listening to the show, and the previous guest that you had. I saw a translated, but I could understand the language I speak and I understand Spanish. So, and there was an interview with Francis, Pope Francis, and he, in an answer to his question about the Amoris Laetitia, the latest declaration, he said homosexuality is a sin, but it's not a crime. And it occurred to me after I heard about so many bishops in Nigeria, the African Conference, rejecting the document or the decision, that in many African countries it is a crime. And so, is that going to? I don't know if Joe can answer it, but is that going to influence or create an exception for certain countries where that kind of behavior, sinful behavior, is also a criminal behavior?
Does it create an exception to what?
To having those unions or the individuals involved in those irregular unions blessed? Would that?
Yeah, let's be really clear that it's not the unions being blessed; it's the individuals, or in some cases, a couple being blessed.
Agreed.
But it's not. So I know that was probably just misspeaking on your part, but that is an important distinction. But second, yeah, there is basically a continent-wide exception for Africa that is, at least in part, in a sort of acknowledgement that you want to pastorally help people in whatever situations that you find them in. And if people are in sinful relationships and there's a way to purify those relationships or get them out of those relationships entirely, then that's an appropriate kind of pastoral intervention. But in countries where the relationship might be criminal, depending on the nature of it, you have to proceed in a certain way. You have to proceed quite thoughtfully. So I think that's, if that's what you mean by an exemption, then yes. And so, yeah, when he says homosexuality is not a crime, but it is a sin, he means here homosexual actions, not, an orientation or disposition. And he actually subsequently kind of clarified those remarks. But yeah, we want to, certainly in the application pastorally of how do you reach out to people, you want to be mindful of not putting them in any kind of danger or in harm's way.
Yeah, I just thought it added to the confusion a little bit, because I don't know if this is the same type of example, but when some people are in favor of abortion in cases of rape and incest, and then you, as I've done, you push them on it and say, well, if you could get those cases allowed, would that be enough for you? And then they say, well, no. So, well, then I would say, well, why bring it up then? And that's how I felt when he said that it's a sin, but not a crime. Well, if it, you answered it better than the reporter that was interviewing him.
That's usually a low bar, but yes, yeah. if you want, just yesterday, the Vatican announced that it had received a document from CAM, that's a Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar, in which they basically said this is not culturally appropriate to try to apply fiducia supplicans in Africa, that this is being, and I think, quite frankly, in the evangelical context where you're trying to reach people in traditional tribal religions or in Islam in the north, or in many cases in different forms of Protestantism, the witness where it looked like, and it wasn't what was actually happening, but it looked like we were blessing same-sex unions, was really being counterproductive for the sharing of the gospel, in addition to everything else going on in terms of national laws in places like Uganda. So all of that combined, I think there was a sort of collective sense, and the Holy Father seems to have accepted this, that we need to take a closer look of, there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach pastorally for how you reach out to people across the world.
Mike, thanks. I'm going to keep moving to get as many as I can on with Joe. It's open forum. The number is 888-31-TRUTH. Lorraine is in Chicago, Illinois. Lorraine, welcome. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Yes, hello. Okay. My daughter and I was talking about the real presence of Jesus. And she said, all churches, how she said, the blood and body become real in all churches. I said, no, it doesn't. I said, just in the Catholic Church and the Eastern Church, I forget the other names of them.
Yeah,
and she said,
you know what? I've got good news for you, Lorraine.
I think you're going to win this argument, Lorraine.
Yeah.
I think you're about to win an argument, Lorraine. Wait.
I can actually give you some, I don't want to say ammunition for your daughter, but here's what you need to know. Number one, a lot of Protestant denominations don't even pretend that the bread and wine have become the body and blood of Jesus. They don't believe in transubstantiation. They don't believe in the Eucharist. They think it's all a symbol. And so what they're doing is symbolic. They're not even trying to say the Mass. But second, the nature of the Eucharist is such that this is a spiritual authority given specifically to the priest. So at the Last Supper, Jesus doesn't invite just anybody and everybody. He doesn't even invite all of his followers. He invites the 12, and then he says, do this in remembrance of me. And so it's to the top-down leadership structure of the church that Jesus gives that authority. So even if I went out there and decided tomorrow I'm going to start my own church and I'm going to say Mass, I don't have the authority to turn bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ because I've not been ordained a priest in that way. And so this is very much at the heart of it. In the last chapter of Isaiah, there's this prophecy of the coming kingdom, how the Gentiles will be incorporated, and some of them will be priests and Levites. Now, the Levites are those who help the priests. That's a prediction of the diaconate. But it means that among the Gentile believers, not all of them are going to be priests, but also not none of them, some of them. And that's what we see in the Catholic Church, that some people have that priesthood, some people have that authority. And if you don't have that, even if your theology is good, you can't celebrate the Mass on your own.
Yes.
That makes sense?
I understand all that.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully your daughter will too.
Yes. I don't know. I hope so.
Well, would you? We could send her a copy.
You
of
know
your
what?
book, Joe.
I've got a book, that you can read, and then you can distill it down for her. You can pass it on to her, whatever you want to do. But if you stay on the line, I will give you a copy of my book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus.
Okay.
All right.
Sound good.
All right.
Sound good.
Hang on. Edgar's going to get an address to send that to you, Lorraine. Thank you very much for the call and for the question. The number here, 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. John is in Cleveland. Glad you're here, John. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hi, Joe. Can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
Oh, perfect. So my question is regarding the Mass. So I know at each Mass, the priest has an intention, and usually it's from like a parishioner or whatever the priest decides to have the intention for. But with us as lay people who attend the Mass, who have a specific intention that's, part of our heart, if it's, for a deceased loved one, we didn't, put it on the parishioner calendar for that said Mass. Do those weigh the same in terms of merit when it comes to the intention of the Mass that the priest says versus the layperson?
I don't know how easily we can quantify something like merit. And I think we should be hesitant to make it too numeric. You know what I mean by that? We don't want to say, well, if two people pray for the same thing, it's worth 87% more than one person. I don't think that's kind of how prayer works, and I don't think that's how merit works. So there is something good about collectively praying for it. There's something good about having the one offering the sacrifice, the priest, praying for it. But by all means, we do, I just said we're not ordained priests in that way, but we do share in the baptismal priesthood of Jesus Christ. And so all of us have the ability to make those spiritual offerings, both throughout the day, and offering things up in your life, Romans 12, where you just make your entire life a spiritual offering to God, but also certainly at Mass and in a special way at the offertory, we want to bring those things. So I don't think it's an either or, and I don't want to put it in numeric terms, but they're both good things.
Let's send you a copy as well of Joe's book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus. Hang on, and John and Edgar will get your address and we'll send it out. Right back, 888-318-7884.
Why We're Catholic is the one book you can hand to anyone to invite them into or back to the Catholic faith. With more than 400,000 copies sold, Trent Horn's book has had a #1 ranking on Amazon.com for 5 years running. Now available in softcover, bulk cases, ebook, and on Audible. Find out what the excitement is all about. Order your copies of Why We're Catholic at shop.catholic.com or visit whywearecatholic.com.
Is relativism dead? It sure seems dead. Each day, new moral demands are made, and they are presented to us as absolutes. Everything, from transgender ideology to physician-assisted suicide, is presented as a moral good that all right-thinking people must accept. But Catholic Answer's own Carlo Broussard says look deeper, and you will see today's moralism is just relativism dressed up in new clothes. Carlo's eye-opening book, The New Relativism, shines a light on how the sacred moral teachings of this age cover up a deep denial of moral truth. Order your copy of The New Relativism today at shop.catholic.com and be prepared to defend the truth against aggressive relativism. The New Relativism at shop.catholic.com or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Our Lord needs articulate defenders of the truth to spread the joy of the Catholic faith. Catholic Answers monthly giving club, Society 315, helps you fulfill the call in 1 Peter 3:15 to always be prepared to make a defense for the hope that is in you. For as little as $10 a month, you'll help Catholics grow in faith, bring lapsed Catholics home, and lead non-Catholics to the truth. Go to casociety315.com and join today.
On the next More to Life, team up.
Feel like your family is off its game? We'll help you and yours be a better team.
That's on the next More to Life. Now back to Catholic Answers Live.
A lot of people call and ask, how do I get that discount on the Catholic Answers Cruise you mentioned? You just use the promo code Pope Peter when you go to CatholicAnswersCruise.com. Use the promo code Pope Peter. And part of that statement that I just made was not true. Nobody called. I just wanted to say it again.
I was wondering how you knew during the break.
Just tell the truth. All right. Yeah, but sometimes the truth is less interesting than the things I make up. As long as you, well, I don't know. Maybe that was wrong. We have go ahead, Joe. Are you gonna?
I'm shaking my head into disappointed.
Are you disappointed in me?
A little bit,
maybe I just started talking without thinking about it. And one of the rules of talking is think before you talk. That's what they tell me around here all the time, and I never followed that rule, and I feel bad now. All right, I'm gonna do penance. You talk with Jordan in Texas. Jordan, welcome. Go ahead.
So what's so penitential about Jordan in Texas?
No, I have to do penance for the evil I just did. By misleading people. Jordan, go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you. My question is about the Eucharist. Since COVID, we haven't been able to receive the blood of Christ. I was wondering if that's ever going to continue.
Oh, I mean, we've been receiving from the chalice for a couple of years now up here in Kansas City. That is a local decision. I'm sort of surprised, to be honest with you, that they're not receiving or not communing you from the chalice. Now, I mean, just for anyone who may be worried, I'd say two things. On the one hand, Christ is fully, substantially present in both the chalice and the host. And so you're not getting, 50% of Jesus or something like that if you receive from only one or the other. And there's any number of reasons why people may only receive one or the other. People who struggle with alcoholism, or people who, have a gluten sensitivity. There are any number of reasons why. And so you're not missing out on anything in terms of sacramental graces. Nevertheless, a lot of people prefer it because it is a more complete sign, that the offering of the bread and wine both reminds us of the body and blood of Jesus, and he's actually present in the, Eucharitized or transubstantiated bread and wine. But then the second thing I'd say for people who may be worried about it, if you are someone who's in a decision-making capacity, the Los Angeles Times actually had a fascinating piece at the very beginning of COVID where they pointed out that there's never been any kind of epidemic traced to the common reception from the chalice. And I was sort of surprised seeing that in the LA Times. For a lot of reasons, it just seems like Catholic inside baseball in a lot of ways. But they pointed out that this is something where people usually think, oh, I bet there's a lot of disease. I bet people are getting sick left and right from sharing the same chalice. And that just doesn't appear to be the case at all. Whether you ascribe that to supernatural causes or the fact that precious metals are used that don't carry a lot of bacteria or disease, whatever the case, if the reason you're not offering the chalice is you're worried there's going to be like an outbreak, that is not something I think you need to worry about. So hopefully people on both sides can rest a little easier with that. And hopefully for your sake, Jordan, they'll bring the chalice back soon.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Jordan, since that was a Eucharistic question, if you'd like a copy of Joe's book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus, I'd be happy to send it to you there in Texas. All you have to do is stay on the line. The next voice you hear will be Edgar, and he will get an address and send it off to you. The number here is 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884 if you want to get on the ship. What ship am I talking about? Friendship. That's right. You just call and ask your question, and you can get on the friendship with us, 888-318-7884. Charles couldn't stay on the line. He's in Oregon listening on the great modern-day Catholic radio station. Sometimes you should ask me why I say the great. Whenever I say it, the great.
Why do you say the great?
Not now. Oh, well, all right,
okay.
I'll tell you. It's one of the oldest Catholic radio stations in the United States. It predates the big Catholic radio revolution that happened in the late 90s. I don't know how old it is, but they've been having...
That's fantastic. I've regularly kind of thought back to those years because when we grew up, we had Protestant radio and didn't have Catholic radio.
Right.
And it was one of those things where I didn't really know it was even a thing that existed, and I don't think it did exist anywhere near me. And so, I always joke we were the rapture-ready Catholic family. When Y2K was coming, we were just going to be on the safe side. We'd heard some stuff. It turned out Jesus did not come back, and the Y2K didn't happen. But
maybe Y2K did happen, but only in a spiritual sense.
Fair enough. There was a Y2K. Yeah. There was a year 2000.
Yeah,
it just
right.
was less remarkable.
Now I'm a Seventh-day Y2Kist.
I see what you're doing there.
I'm so glad you get my obscure theology jokes. All right, so this is what Charles wanted to know from the great modern-day Catholic radio in Oregon. Why does the annulment process for Catholics who marry outside the church consider their marriage to lack form?
Yeah, it's a good question. So with any sacrament, there are three things that go into it. What's called form, matter, and intent. And so you have to intend to do the sacrament. You can't be intending to do something else. If you're acting in a movie, for instance, and you're playing the part of a priest or you're playing the part of a bride and a groom, those are not real sacraments because you don't have the intent. But you also need form and matter. And so in the case of a marriage, the couple are the actual ministers of the sacrament, but they have to do it in the right kind of context. And so if you're a baptized Catholic, that includes typically being baptized in the church or with the dispensation from the bishop to permit you to marry outside of the normal church setting. And so a couple who doesn't do that isn't seemingly trying to do a Catholic wedding. Meaning this, marriage is unique among the sacraments in that there is something before the sacrament. Meaning with 6 of the sacraments, Jesus creates them. You have John the Baptist's baptism, but Jesus does a kind of like totally new thing. But with marriage is already found in nature. Pagans are getting married. People who've never heard of the gospel are getting married. And there's even companions in certain types of animals. And so marriage is reflecting something that is both natural and human, but that is then raised to the dignity of a sacrament. And so when we talk about what are sometimes called the ends of marriage, we mean all three of these things. That it's for the purpose of procreation. That's the kind of animal sense of why people get married. It's also for lifelong fidelity. This is what's called the unitive, and that is the human end. But it's also as a symbol of the love of Christ for the church. And this is a chance for you to witness to the person that you love and to the world and to your children, wherever they may be, something about the nature of Christ's love for the church. And so it's actually a beautiful kind of thing to get to do. As a father and as a husband, I get to pour myself out for my bride. I get to show the love of God to my children so they can know what a loving father looks like. And so all of that is to say, someone who is totally ignoring the church and decides to just, get married in a courthouse, say, doesn't seem like they're trying to do that. It doesn't seem they're trying to do the kind of vision of marriage that I just described, which is why it makes us call into question the validity of a sacramental marriage.
Charles in Oregon, listening on the great Modern Day Catholic Radio. Thank you very much for the call and the question. I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but there are 0 people on the line. So I'll tell you what, that means you can just pick up the phone, call, and like in a matter of 30 seconds, be on the air with Joe, asking him whatever question you want.
That's a little alarming.
I know that you're that close to Joe Heschmeyer. 888-318-7884, the number 888-318-7884. It's an open forum. If you're Catholic, we're open to you. If you're not Catholic, we're open to you. Sometimes our non-Catholic callers feel like they're not part of the tribe or something, and they don't want to take up our time or take up the listeners' time. Believe me, that is not the way this show works. This is we love to talk about the Catholic faith with anybody. Sometimes it's a lot more fun to talk about it with someone who's not Catholic than someone who is. So pick up that phone and call 888-318-7884. I'll take a very quick break and be right back with Joe Heschmeyer on Catholic Answers Live.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live.
The Catechism defines evangelization as the proclamation of Christ and His gospel by word and the testimony of life. But what does that look like in real life? It looks like St. Paul street evangelists out in the public square sharing the good news. We're a Catholic nonprofit that starts conversations by handing out free sacramentals. Then we employ our method of listen, befriend, proclaim, and invite. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization. Visit streetevangelization.com to learn more.
This is Jack Williams, General Manager of EWTN Radio. As we look forward to the new year, we want to thank you for listening and encourage you to stay tuned in the coming weeks for some exciting programming announcements that are sure to make 2024 the best year ever for EWTN Radio. As we strive to continue the legacy of evangelization born out of Mother Angelica's vision, please keep us in your prayers and know that we pray for you daily. God bless you all.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. That took like 10 seconds. All the lines were full. Like it just the excitement of just immediate access to Joe Heschmeyer was overwhelming there. Levi in Tulsa, Oklahoma, thank you for the call. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Just want to say first of all, I am not a Catholic, but I am very much interested in the Catholic faith. Live here in Tulsa and listen to your guys' show almost every day. And one of the things I just have it's a real struggle for me is praying the rosary or praying to Mary. And I've listened to so many of the answers to that. And I just wonder, is there something that you could point me to not necessarily teach that it's valid, but I don't know, it's just a really hard one for me to get over. And also, can you be Catholic but not pray to Mary? I guess that's probably not possible, but it's just really hard for me to kind of swallow that pill for some reason, and I've just been really struggling with it. But anyways, I just
Okay.
really appreciate all you guys do.
That's wonderful. And I don't know if I should, give him out over the phone like this, but Carlo Broussard, I think, is right there in Tulsa. And so if you want to meet up with a rock solid Catholic Answers apologist,
right,
he'd be a great guy to connect with. And I don't know the easiest way to do that, but at the very least, you could email radio@catholic.com.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And I'm sure they could pass on your contact info to Carlo. I don't want to give out his number and everything on national
Like
air
Carlo
for
gave you his
obvious-
number. You can't reach Carlo
Yeah,
Broussard.
exactly.
There's no way he gave you his number.
That's really hurtful.
Oh, sorry.
But second, so I think to your question, why do we make prayer more complicated, right? Like, why not just go only directly to God? Is that a fair kind of presentation of it?
Yeah, and I think this is actually yes, and I would say if I can tease it out even more.
Yeah, please.
It's actually caused me to I'm in Exodus 90 right now, and
Wonderful.
Which is there's the prayer to Saint Michael at the end of our our meeting. And I think it's just more, maybe not even so much Mary, just praying to the saints in general. But it's made me think well, wait, because I've heard the argument on Catholic Answers or whatnot is that they're on the other side and they're still with us and they're praying for us, and just as I would ask my friend to pray for me. And so it's actually kind of maybe short-circuited my original thought was well, yeah, why do if I believe that Christ is my mediator, and that's what I'm holding on to, that's why it'd be hard for me to pray to Mary, then why would I ask my Aunt Jane to pray for me?
Yeah, right.
If I can ask Aunt Jane to pray for me, who I can see, touch, smell, feel, whatever, and hear, then why would I have a hard time praying to somebody that's already in heaven with the Lord? So I think maybe that's also I feel that's feeling a little
perfect
uneasy about that.
So the conflation that's going on there is people are taking 1 Timothy 2 verse 5 out of context. In 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 5, we're told that Jesus is the one mediator between God and man. But if you go, I would encourage you, go read 1 Timothy 2, and you'll notice the chapter begins with St. Paul talking about the need for intercessory prayer. He says, first of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all men. And then he gives several examples of who we should be praying for. So we can both say Christ is the one mediator in the sense that he is our unique ransom, which is exactly what we're told it means to say he's the one mediator. In verse 6, the sentence continues, who gave himself as a ransom for all. But that doesn't mean we don't have intercessors. There's a difference between the ransom, the mediator in that sense, and these intercessors. When you go to your Aunt Jane, or when you go to any other Christian, if you go to the saints in heaven, if you go to the angels, if you go to the person down the block, you don't think they died on the cross for you. But rather, you think that they're intercessors going before the throne on your behalf. And why does that matter? Well, we can look at the general principle, James chapter 5, verse 16, that the prayer of a righteous man has great power in its effects. James 5 talks all about how prayer really does change things. We can also see a litany of examples of this throughout the Old Testament. So, for instance, Lot, good guy, he and his family are not saved because of Lot's prayers. They're saved because of Abraham's prayers. Job, in the very last chapter of Job, Job's friends who are cursed by God for, their smart alecky kind of answers, are only forgiven if Job will intercede for them, which is what happens. Or you can take the paralytic. The 4 men who bring the paralyzed man to Jesus, we're told Jesus looks at their faith, not the man's, the friend's faith, and then forgives the friend. And so the great danger is that a lot of American Christianity, especially American Protestantism, but Catholics haven't been immune from this, has bought into this American individualism, which is radically unlike the theology of the Bible, which is all about the body of Christ and how different parts of the body have to look out for one another. In the same way, if you're like, oh, my stomach is hungry, but my mouth doesn't care about that. Well, it should, because it's all part of one body. And so too, we look out for one another in the body of Christ, both in the sense of praying for one another and asking one another for prayers, because we're all part of one body. And when one part of the body is suffering, we all suffer. When one part is glorified, we're all glorified. So that's the core issue here. Isn't just that mediation and intercession are being mixed up. The core issue is that it's this vision of Christianity that's too narrow, where it's just me and Jesus. And so you got the king and not the kingdom. You got the shepherd and not the other sheep. And so that is not the biblical vision. And we need to break through that and realize that other Christians, including the Christians who are right now in heaven, are an important part of that body.
Levi?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
All
I'm
right.
so happy. Please feel free to call back. I loved talking to you, and I hope you're able to connect with Carlo.
And also, I would like to send you a copy of Joe's latest book, too, The Eucharist is Really Jesus. If you'd like it, just hang on, and we'll send it off to you. Levi, thank you. I'm going to go to Joshua in northern Kentucky. Joshua, thank you for the call. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Well, this is, you all know I'm Joshua. My question involves kind of the Eucharist.
Okay.
I know that transubstantiation is real, but my question is not so much with the Protestants that don't believe that the Eucharist is Jesus, but with like the High Church Lutherans and Anglicans that say it is Jesus.
Okay.
Is it the lack of apostolic succession? Is it the fact that they kind of believe in consubstantiation? Or
so this refers to the question Joe answered earlier, where he said you said many Protestants don't even believe. So Josh was saying, well, what about those Protestants who do believe that they have the body and the blood of Christ present on the altar? Why would a Catholic say it's not there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I want to actually connect to one of the other answers I gave earlier, which is that a valid sacrament has three elements: form, matter, and intent. And so if you say, I'm going to baptize, but I'm going to use Kool-Aid instead of water, no, you don't have a baptism there. And so you have to have, for one thing, the right minister. Now, anybody can baptize. But in terms of the Eucharist, you need an actual priest. And a priest doesn't just declare themselves to be a priest, and they aren't just made priests by the laity. A priest is made priest by other priests. So you see in the book of Acts that the apostles are going around ordaining presbyters and bishops, because those are not just chosen by the people. Jesus doesn't just have like a survey to see who people want as their 12 favorite disciples and chooses them as the apostles. No, it's all top down in terms of that authority. That's where that spiritual, supernatural, hierarchical authority is coming from. And so someone who doesn't have apostolic succession, who can't show that they're part of that top-down authority, isn't able. That's the first issue. The second, as you said, if you don't believe in transubstantiation, if you don't believe in the sacrifice of the Mass, that would also be an issue as well. So it's two different strikes against, and either one would be enough to disqualify.
Joshua, I'm going to leave it there because we asked for calls and lots of people called, so I'm going to try to keep getting folks on. Tom's in Lincoln, Nebraska. Tom, thank you for the call. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Thanks, guys. I'm wondering why it seems like the Gospels focus so much on Jesus' healings. For everything seems physical healings, but in life it seems like the emotional pain we experience is far exceeds physical things that we endure. I wondered if there was any sort of way to address that or think about that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple examples that point to that kind of emotional healing, if you will. One would be the raising of the widow's son at Nain in Luke 7, beginning in verse 11. There's a widow, and her only son has died. And so she's extremely distraught, both to have her son die and because she's been left totally desolate. And so out of love for this woman who has no one else, Jesus has this compassion on her and raises her son from the dead. That's a pretty incredible miracle. There's another one that we don't even think about usually as a miracle, but speaks to this. And that's in John chapter 4, when Jesus encounters a Samaritan woman at the well. And the thing that he does miraculously is he tells her own life. He reveals that he knows all about her relational brokenness and woundedness. And this has this incredible transformative effect on her. So in John 4, she goes back and she starts preaching about Jesus to the other Samaritans. And so in verse 39, we're told many Samaritans from that city believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me all that I ever did. And so what she needed to see wasn't like this guy can heal a broken bone. She needed to know this guy can heal a broken heart. And Jesus showed that he could, and that transformed her life. So I'm sure there are other examples of that, but those are just a couple examples where what Jesus is doing is showing that he can heal all of those places of brokenness in our life, physical, emotional, spiritual, because he wants us to be whole and complete and entire.
Tom, as I said, lots of folks on the line because we asked for those calls, so I want to be fair and get to as many as I can, so I hope that's helpful. Brenda's in Los Angeles, California. Brenda, thank you very much for the call. If you could be kind of quick, we're more likely to get you an answer.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm calling because I have a question regarding dancing. I'm an artist. I'm a performer. Sometimes I feel like there's a sense of guilt. Like there's like a lot of attractiveness and the confidence of the movement, and so I know I don't believe it's sinful to dance, but I was wondering if the church has any teaching regarding dancing.
No, like with almost anything else, it depends kind of what is being signified through the body. So Cardinal Arinze, I believe it was, pointed out that in Africa, there's much more of a culture of liturgical dance, whereas in much of like European history, dance was always like more romantic. And so there's a lot more sensuality to a lot of European dances, and I think this is true of Latin American dances as well, where it's much more of like the male-female encounter, which can be pure or can be like overly sexualized depending. And so I think in all of these cases, it's not just it's wrong to move your body or something like that. The Catechism in paragraph 1674 acknowledges that there's such a thing as religious dances. So dance can be something that glorifies God. Dance can also be something that's, obscene and provocative. But it really depends on kind of what you're doing, not just dance as such.
Brenda, this is kind of a rare question, so I wonder if that answer was satisfying to you.
It is. Thank you so much. I'd love a copy of the Eucharist book.
Oh, please. Yes, stay on the line, and I will make sure you get one.
Nicely done, Brenda. Nicely done. Hang on. Edgar will get your information, and we'll send it to you. Old friend Emma in Hayden, Idaho. You are... Wait, we lost Emma. All right, I got to go to Sharon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I mean, not that I got to. I mean,
Wow.
I don't mean it that way, Sharon. It's just the call dropped all of a sudden. Sharon, go ahead with your question for Joe.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Oh, okay. My brother is in his number 5 marriage. He's a baptized Catholic. None of his marriages were in the church or by a priest or blessed.
Mm-hmm.
It was all civil marriages. One was in a Lutheran church.
We're getting near the end, Sharon, so don't list them all. Just let us know what the question is.
Okay. I was wondering what he'd have to do so he could come back and receive Holy Communion.
Okay,
Wonderful.
Sharon, thank you.
You're a good sister. So first, he should go talk to a priest, and he can go into all of the details about everything that's happened. It sounds like there's a chance none of those were valid marriages, in which case he's probably looking at something called the simple convalidation. Canon law discusses this in Canon 1156, but basically the church can bless the union. And you can even, in some cases, get what's called a ratiocination, which is a healing of the roots. So if he would like to have a Christian marriage to the person he's with, he can do that, but he should go talk to the priest, and they can sort through all of any obstacles that there may be.
Sharon, the music's playing, so I won't be able to come back to you, but I assume you were about to say, can I have a copy of Joe's book, The Eucharist is Really Jesus? So if you were, hang on, and we'll get you a copy of that book. Edgar will get it to you. Joe Heschmeyer, what's the temperature there now? Are you
oh gosh,
are you still at 11 degrees, or has it gone down?
It's now 10, and it feels like -7.
Refreshing. I call that refreshing, Joe. Enjoy it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate you doing the hour. We'll see you again Monday, I think, Joe.
Yes, if I'm not frozen.
Okay. As long as he stays thawed, we will have Joe on Monday, and we will see you then, God willing, right here on Catholic Answers Live.